What I heard was Donald Trump went to bed embarrassed and pissed.
Trevor Noah stood before a live studio audience at The Daily Show and unleashed a monologue that immediately set the tone for how comedians, commentators, and ordinary citizens would grapple with the reality of Donald Trump's second term. The context alone carried a sense of disbelief. Trump had defeated Kamala Harris in a brutal and divisive campaign and returned to the White House despite years of controversy, scandals, and political unrest. Now, only months into his renewed presidency, Noah directed a sharp, relentless critique at the man who had once been both a political figure and a late-night punchline, but now was again the most powerful person in the world. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The opening of Noah's remarks carried an almost theatrical weight, underscoring the irony of Trump being re-elected after the chaos of his first administration. He pointed out how, in less than 100 days, Trump had managed to reignite old controversies while spawning entirely new ones, cementing the idea that no lessons had been learned from the past. This wasn't just another late-night roast. It was a performance brimming with urgency. By weaving humor into serious accusations, Noah captured the disbelief of a large portion of the public, giving voice to the frustration many felt watching Trump repeat his patterns of defiance and recklessness. What elevated Noah's takedown beyond mere comedy was the focus on Trump's personal life, specifically the mounting rumors of multiple secret affairs against his wife, Melania. While affairs and scandals are nothing new in politics, Noah emphasized the hypocrisy of a president who often presented himself as a family man, while allegedly betraying the very foundation of that image. It was not simply about the affairs themselves, but about the trust and stability that the presidency was supposed to represent. Noah turned this personal failing into a metaphor for Trump's political style: transactional, opportunistic, and dismissive of loyalty or consequence. The reaction in the room was a blend of laughter, shock, and applause, but beneath it was a current of seriousness. Trevor Noah's style has always been to cloak truth and humor, making even the most difficult subjects digestible for a wide audience. Here, though, there was less cushioning. The comedy served as a scalpel, cutting sharply at the fragile illusion of stability that Trump tried to project in his second term. The audience was laughing, but they were also listening, recognizing the deeper implications behind the humor. One of the most striking aspects of the performance was Noah's ability to contextualize Trump's behavior within a broader pattern of disregard for accountability. The alleged affairs were positioned as yet another chapter in Trump's long history of evading consequences, whether in business, politics, or personal relationships. Noah suggested that just as Trump had weathered bankruptcies, lawsuits, and impeachment trials, he now believed he could weather personal scandals without fear of repercussion. It was this brazenness, this belief in his own invincibility, that Noah sought to dismantle in front of millions watching at home. By dragging Trump's private indiscretions into the public arena, Noah was also highlighting how blurred the line between personal and political had become. For past presidents, personal scandal might have remained secondary to policy debates. But in Trump's case, Noah showed that the personal was inseparable from the political. If the president could not be faithful in his marriage, how could he be trusted to honor the commitments he made to the American people? The question was rhetorical, yet it carried the weight of genuine concern, resonating with viewers who felt that character mattered as much as competence. Noah's performance was also a reflection of the shifting role of late-night comedy in modern politics. Where once comedians might have kept political jabs to quick quips, figures like Noah have taken on a dual role as entertainers and commentators. His dismantling of Trump was as much about holding him accountable as it was about eliciting laughs. The audience, in turn, no longer viewed shows like The Daily Show merely as comedy, but as part of the national conversation. By tackling Trump's first months in office with a mixture of satire and seriousness, Noah was doing the work that many felt traditional news outlets were too hesitant or too cautious to do. Another important layer of the takedown was the focus on Melania Trump. Noah underscored the awkwardness of her position as First Lady once again, forced into the spotlight despite her apparent reluctance. The allegations of multiple affairs painted her as both a victim of Trump's indiscretions and a symbol of the contradictions within his presidency. Noah's commentary invited viewers to consider the personal toll of Trump's behavior, not not just on Melania, but on the broader fabric of American society. When the leader of a nation so casually disrespects commitments, it sets a precedent, signaling that betrayal and deception can be excused if cloaked in power. The energy of Noah's delivery reflected the exhaustion many Americans were already feeling only a few months into Trump's second term. His jokes about Trump's chaotic leadership style, jumping from policy blunders to Twitter rants to scandals, carried a familiarity that was both humorous and disheartening. It was as if the country had been thrust back into a reality many hoped had been left behind after Trump's first exit from the White House. Noah tapped into this collective frustration, amplifying it in a way that felt cathartic to his audience. What made the moment particularly memorable was the timing. The early months of any presidency are typically defined by optimism, momentum, and the pursuit of campaign promises. For Trump, however, those months were overshadowed by scandal, confusion, and allegations of personal misconduct. Noah's decision to confront this head-on reflected the urgency of the moment. The public didn't have the luxury of waiting years to assess Trump's second term. The warning signs were already visible. By framing the presidency through the lens of scandal, Noah argued that the dysfunction wasn't on the horizon, it was already here. The implications of Noah's takedown were far-reaching. Beyond the laughs and applause, it contributed to shaping public perception of Trump's second presidency. Comedy, after all, has the power to crystallize complex realities into digestible narratives. By focusing on Trump's affairs and chaotic leadership, Noah was defining the narrative of his second term in the eyes of his viewers. This wasn't a presidency of renewal or redemption. It was one of repetition, of old patterns resurfacing with alarming speed. As the show progressed, Noah wove in references to policy failures and international embarrassments, but always anchored them in the personal flaws of the man at the center. The message was clear. Trump's political missteps could not be separated from his character flaws. The affairs were not isolated scandals, but symbols of a larger truth, that Trump was a leader who viewed loyalty as expendable and truth as negotiable. This performance also underscored the role of satire in a democracy. While politicians wield official power, comedians like Noah wield cultural power, shaping how people interpret events. Noah's dismantling of Trump's early presidency was not merely entertainment, but a form of resistance, reminding viewers that ridicule could be a weapon against those who seemed untouchable. In mocking Trump's arrogance and hypocrisy, Noah was restoring a sense of agency to audiences who felt powerless in the face of political chaos. Even more fascinating was how Noah balanced the absurd with the serious. At one moment, he would have the audience roaring with laughter over Trump's inability to manage basic presidential duty. In the next, he would pivot to the unsettling reality of what those failures meant for the country. This oscillation kept the audience engaged, but it also mirrored the disorienting experience of living through Trump's presidency, where the line between comedy and tragedy often seemed impossible to draw. Noah's critique also touched on the cultural divide that had enabled Trump's return to power. By pointing out the hypocrisy of those who dismissed the allegations of affairs while championing family values, he highlighted the double standards that had come to define American politics. The affairs were not just about Trump's personal life, they were about the willingness of his supporters to excuse any behavior so long as he remained a vehicle for their political agenda. In this way, Noah was not only attacking Trump, but also shining a light on the complicity of those who enabled him. The laughter from the audience carried a bitter edge, a recognition that the problem extended beyond one man. The affairs, the scandals, the chaos, all of it was possible because a significant portion of the country was willing to turn a blind eye. The power of Noah's performance lay in its ability to capture the contradictions of the moment. Here was a president who had been given a second chance by the electorate, yet who seemed determined to squander it in the same ways he had before. Here was a comedian who was supposed to provide relief, yet who was delivering some of the sharpest critiques of power available on mainstream television. The convergence of these realities created a moment that was both entertaining and profoundly unsettling. Noah had done more than just destroy Trump with jokes. He had laid bare the implications of a second Trump presidency. Chaos, scandal, and betrayal repeating themselves like a grim deja vu. The allegations of secret affairs served as a symbol for the larger dysfunction. A reminder that beneath the bluster and bravado was a leader incapable of change. The audience left that night with more than just laughter. They left with a deeper understanding of the stakes. of the fragility of truth in a world where power could excuse almost anything. Noah's dismantling of Trump was a cultural event in its own right, shaping how millions of people understood the early days of a presidency that promised to be as controversial as the last. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Trevor Noah destroying Trump after re-election? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.